Hello. How is everybody? How was your weekend? Hope you're all doing well in isolation or lockdown, whatever you call it. So today I'd like to talk about breathing again, but this time to do with long phrases and how to approach those in a sort of more Alexander technique inspired way. So that's one thing that I'd like to do. And for that, I'm going to use a couple of examples of phrases which aren't terribly long, but can often make us, we can often run out of breath before we finish them. So Chaminade Concertino, just the very opening. And the other one was Bach E minor sonata here. So if you have that music to hand, that would be useful if you could get that, or when you rewatch, just get that music out when you come back to this. Sometimes I think it's good, it's great that you're here live, but if you rewatch it and do it in your own time so you can pause, and then it's not so like manic. So do it in your own time as well, but it's really good that people are here. So hello to all of you. So that's the first thing I like to do, breathing. Second thing, if we have time, would be to do intervals. I did a little poll on Twitter, and the top 3 things that people want to know about is Moyse 24 studies, Chaminade and Bach, and intervals. So, hello. If I didn't want to do the Moyse or the Chaminade today because it's something that I'd like you to have your music for, so I'm going to be doing it later in the week. So make sure that you have access to some Chaminade and Bach daily exercises, Moyse 24 studies, and the Moyse Sonorite book, if you have those. If you don't, I will put them on my stand, and hopefully you'll be able to just have a quick look. It's like quite small print, but I will put it there in case you can see it. So starting with breathing, what I would like to first of all just have a recap of the release of air that we had before, where we did a hiss or an S sound. And I just want to do that one more time just to sort of warm up your breathing apparatus. So can we let our air out first, just casually, and then when you're ready, just let some air come in. And when you've filled up, just let out a S for as long as you can. Ready? Good. And the pieces that I've picked, the phrases are about 4 bars long, or sort of 16 beats. So I think if we practice letting out air for 16 beats, it will really help us with the phrases that we're about to play. So one more time, just think of the 16 beats as you start to breathe in. So you've got that in your mind and where you're going. So just let's breathe in again. And then just think 16, ready, go. Okay, so that's quite, for me, that's quite a good stretch of air. I don't know if I could go terribly much more than that, but I could definitely get there with comfort and without squeezing at the end. So that's maybe 16 is a good one to do. If that's too much for you, you can go back to whatever you're comfortable with and gradually build up to that. If 16 is super easy for you, maybe think about letting out a little bit more air, or you can go even further, that's fine as well. So other pieces as well where you might have long phrases in orchestra, of course, you've got L'après-midi, you've got Beethoven Leonora Overture number 3 with that big top G start. You've also got the Bach Passions, which those phrases are just incredibly long and there's no visible place to breathe. For example, John's Passion, there's an aria, I think it's number 13, which is 12 bars long, and it's pretty constant with semiquavers. So to do these little exercises first will stand you in good stead when you actually need to play those ones in one breath. Okay, so having done a bit of releasing of the air, can we just do that on one note? So let's pick, because Chaminade starts on a D, let's just do middle D, and see if you can release the air at the same rate that you did with the hiss. So we're going to aim for 16 beats. If you fade out, doesn't matter. We can just keep working on it in your own time. But see how far you can get. Ready? So let's let out our air first. And then take a breath. So that was 16 beats with my foot. If you're tapping along as well, that's good. Let's just do that one more time. This time singing and playing that D. So that just helps the air always make sure it's coming out supported well. So sing and play a D for 16 beats. Ready? Let the air out. Breathe in. Good. So actually with singing and playing, I find it a lot easier for some strange reason. You'd think it would be the opposite, but I find that just a lot easier. So it's a good thing to practice with the singing as well. If somebody says, like a orchestra or band director, take a deep breath, or your teacher says, take a deep breath, what does that automatically make you do? What would be the first thing that you did? I know that when I was younger, I thought I had to like take a huge deep breath like that, and everything got quite tight, although I wasn't really aware of how I use my body at that age. But now that I'm a bit older, a bit wiser, and a bit grayer, I find that those kind of instructions aren't really helpful. So instead of taking a breath, can you think of allowing space for air to come in? So instead of trying to force the air in, you just invite it in instead. And I think that's quite, it was a big turning point for me when I studied Alexander technique, was this idea of allowing and instead of doing. So the active part of breathing is the out breath, the exhalation. So the inhalation is automatic and it just takes care of itself. But you can help your body by not being tight and not forcing the air in, but just opening up and allowing it in. So can we just do that long D one more time? And when you breathe out, just think of that as the active part. And when you're ready to let the air come in, just think of a nice smell like roses or something, and just allow all that space for the air to move. Okay, so let's just try it like that. So breathing out one more time. Let's make space. And 16 beats on a G. Good, and you're probably finding it gradually a little bit easier because your body gets used to that sort of stretch in a way. So it's like limbering up for a marathon race. You've got to sort of warm up these muscles as well. Okay, so if we have a look at, that's the Bach. Let's have a look at the Chaminade here. I don't know if you can clearly see that, but you get the general gist of that melody there. Can we try just playing as far as you can get? It might not be to the end, but I'd like to start from here and just try to think of this point as you're breathing here. So you've got 2 bars to breathe, and try and think here when you breathe in. And all the time, your air's going over to this point. It's always directing. Okay, so often when we play this one, we're so obsessed with making the right sound and the expression, and often we get sort of stuck on notes and we waste a lot of air on them, and that means we can't really actually get to the end of the phrase. So can we just try this opening melody together? And yeah, just think about that, allowing the air in, not forcing it in, and see how far we can get. Mess that up, but still I managed to get to the end, so that's not bad. If you just sort of fizzled out around here, that's quite understandable. And a process that you can use, another Alexander technique thing that I learned, is from an old Baroque horn treatise, where they would have a phrase like this, and you would take it one note at a time. And for the first note, you don't even think about how much air you need. You just blow it. And then you just add on one more note each time without really having to think. But your body automatically just knows where it's going and makes enough space and allows enough breath in. So can we try that, but not one note at a time, but like a beat at a time? So we're going to just start with that D for 2 beats. Okay, so just pick up your flute, whatever air you have in your lungs, and just play it. Now we'll do the next beat and so on. So I'll just keep going. Okay, so it might seem quite a long process, but actually that didn't take too long. It only took a couple of minutes. And now you didn't notice where it, the breath at all, really. It just, you automatically got to the next point along the way. So make those little steps for yourself right from the beginning. So just one note at a time, and just allow the air in each time, not thinking about getting enough air, because that will often not help. So I hope that helps. You can do the same thing with any of those long phrases. So this one as well, the Bach E minor. But let's actually just sing and play this melody, because that's another way of practicing it. So can we try that together? I don't know if you can see that. Let's try it. Okay, and then let's just try and play it. Okay, so that's a little exercise that I like to do to warm up as well. Let me know how you get on with that. So the next part of today, I'm going to do some intervals. And for this one, I like to use Moyse Sonorite book, the Attacks and Slurs chapter, which is on page, starts on page 15. So it's this one with the, it starts on an F. And I'd just like to go through this process with you, giving you some sort of tips along the way. But if we just start it on a middle D, he writes it on an F to start with, but I think make it on the note that you're really comfortable with, because that note is going to keep cropping up. So to start with, I find middle D probably the easiest note on the flute, and so that's what I use. But you can use whatever you like. Okay, so the first bit is to get very lively, short staccatos. He says it's a little bit like a vibrating pizzicato. So you've got vibrato going, but it's short but ringing. And on the flute, we have a problem where the sound tends to just stop dead and be quite dry. And so to give a note life, it's important not to stop it with the tongue, so like cutting the note off, but allowing just the air to move freely and the sound to ring and resonate. So allowing the sound to resonate means really opening up all your resonating areas, so the chest, the head, all the bones in your body. They will help the resonance of your sound. So that means don't allow your posture to change and become sort of bent over, but keep nice and tall whilst you're doing this as well. So the first one, I like to do it on the poo attack that we did, the poo attack. So it's just very simply keep playing a D, but you go a semitone higher and then back to it. So dum, 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 like that. So can we try that together all on poo? Like that. Okay, so let's do that together. 1, 2. Okay, so you cover the whole range of your flute, but staying on that sort of pedal of D. So you're always coming back. And the reason that he starts, I think, the reason he starts with this one and not any slurs yet is to simply get the lips in position for each note. And so that gives you some sort of muscle memory for where those notes belong. So when you slur up to them, you know where they are, okay? So the next bit of that is to do a diminuendo and slur from a crotchet to a quaver. So it's the same pattern of notes, but now we've got a slur. So it's something like okay. And if you can make sure that the weaker note, there's less vibrato, so that if you're going to use vibrato, use it on the D note that you've got, the pedal note. And a good way of practicing this, which Wib taught me, was to do some vibratos and then, so you can count them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So if you do it in fives, it makes sure that the vibrato continues to the next note. Often when we go between notes, the vibrato can sort of get da, da, like this. So it gets a little stuck along the way. So if you think in a five, it actually helps because there's not so much of a beat there, if that makes sense. So if I do a couple of those with, you can exaggerate the vibrato as well. So something like that. Okay, so let's do that. 5 vibratos, quite exaggerated, and then softer second note. So wah, 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 wah. All right, let's try that. 1. And let's just do going down from D now to low D. So we won't go all the way to the top just yet. Good. So important points when you're doing a diminuendo, of course, is not to allow the second note to be flat. And that gets harder the higher you get up. So if you hear something like, you can hear that that A there is flat. You can always compare it to a harmonic, or you can check with the tuner or whatever, but try to use your ears and you can hear that that interval is a little bit narrow. Okay, so you're sort of push your lip a little bit more forward and remember the airspeed as you're going up needs to be faster. As you're coming down, when you're doing a diminuendo, the same thing applies. So we don't want to bring the lips back as you're going down here because it's getting weaker. So the same movement, oh, oh, it will just be by degrees less of a movement as you get lower. Okay, so that's that one. The next one is starting a note above your pedal note. So if we look here, if you can see that this one here, you would start on an, when we're doing D, so we're doing E flat, D, E natural, D. So let's do a little bit of that, just the octave above and below. So we'll go from E flat. Okay, so it helps, this exercise is really good because it helps you do a very large interval in stages. So if you have pieces where you've got like a jump of an octave or a jump of a 12th or any kind of jump, try to practice it in this sort of methodical way and gradually get up to that interval that you actually need to get up to. And it will feel a lot easier because you've done all the stages up to that. There's any piece that you have will have an interval that might be tricky. So that's a good way to practice it. And then the final way to practice this study is to make it into triplets, as you can see at the bottom here. And so you're alternating the stress of each note. So we have a low note that has a stress and then a higher note. Da dee da dee da dum ba dee da dee da. So take care that the first note of the triplet is stronger than the second and the third note of the triplet. So don't allow the sound to get louder if you're coming back to D if it's on the third beat of the third triplet. Okay, so that's something that it's not written strictly in there, but that's something that we're taught, is that we have to remember that the stress and the release of the meter. So if it's in 3/4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or in a triplet, you could think of the words elephant. So this could be your elephant exercise, or elegant. So it's 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's just try that octave again, above and below in stages, but we're going to do it in triplets, alternating the stress. So every triplet has the stress on the number 1 of each triplet. So I'll just do a couple. Something like that. Okay, so let's try that together. Okay, so I hope that all made sense. If you want me to go into any more details on those, let me know in some of the comments. And if there's anything that you'd like me to work on this week, please do let me know. So tomorrow, I would like to start maybe with the Tafanel and Gobert. I think EJ4 is a good one to really get into. And it will be working a little bit on the intervals. It will be working on legato and articulation and everything. So we'll do Tafanel and Gobert EJ4 tomorrow. So bring your books. Mine is very tatty, so it doesn't even have a cover anymore. Just have, at least I still have Tafanel and Gobert, but that's how much I've used that book. If you have a very pristine, clean book, I envy you, but make sure that you're using it a lot. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Thanks.